Welcome back, everybody. Well, I made my decision. I'm not doing the dashboard this one. I'm doing the intake manifold. Why am I doing the intake manifold? Because, I got to think a lot more about the dash before I start cutting it and how I'm going to assemble it. It's one of those things I'd much rather give it a little bit more time for me to think of. Plus, doing the manifold is like right on the cusp of a really bad job, how can I put this? It's not cutting and cutting out the things and trying to set it up all like that. No, it's the grinding to make them fit, because the more you grind off, it just gets everywhere and it's almost like sandblasting. It's not that great. It's not that fun, But let me bring you over here. Let me show you the manifold. There's a few things in this manifold I really do not like, and I'll let you know why. And we will get on to doing that, So let's leap into action. Where it's going to, that's pretty much where the stock original manifold sits. Now, what I want to do is, this intake runner kind of fits underneath the alternator. And what it is that seeing how it fits underneath the alternator, the biggest obstruction is this right here. So I need to take off this obstruction, go down and slide it in. And I might have to cut this one first. I'm not really sure, but this is all going to be going up like that, and down, because it's going to angle in. This is going to angle in, and it's going to enter from this side right here, right where the oil dipstick is. One other thing is, we're going to decrease some of the restriction in this manifold. And you're probably saying, what restriction? It's a cast manifold. Well, if you take a look at this, these right here are holes. They are used for the Germans to use a 10-inch long 6mm Allen key or hex key to go through here to take off the Allen bolts. Where you saw me pulling this thing off, I could get my breaker bar in there, hold it down, and pull it out, no problem. How did they make these holes? Well, they had to have, I've never opened up a manifold, but they had to have cast tubes all the way through this so boost would, or air pressure would not be leaking out. I'm going to get rid of all those tubes, and I'm going to seal up the holes by welding them up. That's my main thing. Once I get that all welded up, or done, I'm going to go over to this side and then cut where I want this throttle body to go in. And it's going to be at an angle down, because I need it at an angle down so it's going to clear all the accessories, the hoses down here, and I'll probably put a bend on the intercooler bottom just so I can have a straight hose, no problem. But first, let me go out and I'm going to grab my Sawzall and cut this at an angle, cut this right off like that. That way I can, the first cut's always the worst, but we'll get that cut off first, and we'll see a little bit inside the manifold. Then we'll start seeing if we can snake it down and make it work. I might have to cut this thing off at an angle here next, just to give me wiggle room. That's the main thing. So if I cut this off, okay, well, I got this piece right here. Now I can sit there and manipulate around, see exactly where it's going to go. And it gives me a much better, indication. Because if you look right here, I'm going to go like this all the way around and back down and have the plate like there. So when the air comes in, it hits that plate and goes into the port instead of coagulating like this right here. The only thing I could think of they put this in here is because of a backfire or something to create, an air pocket in here. This thing might even, it's not solid. I mean, it's probably this thick, but they have a cast plug here, so we might as well just get rid of it, because it's useless and it's just useless, So, all right, let me throw this in the vise, and thinking more about it, will cut that, but I'm going to first cut this, see if I can snake it here, and then get a more determination how I'm going to do that. There's the cast pipe right there. No restriction really, but well, I've got to take a small chunk out of it, and I'm going to take this, while I'm at it, I'm just going to cut this off, I mean, this is not hitting the distributor. My hand, see that? It's this plate right here. It's hitting the base of the distributor. So I might as well just take the chunk off so I can slide it over. That's come over a little bit, which is not bad. It just has to miss this housing right here. No problem. And this seems to be good. I might have to cut all the way up through here. And actually, it looks like I will have to cut all the way up through there. Because if it comes over about an inch, that's where it's going to have to be cut. Well, as you can see, the alternator is taking up way too much airspace inside here. Well, change of plans. I guess we're going to have to move. I mean, I was trying to keep the alternator out of the airflow of the radiator, even though it is restricted with the intercooler. So I'm going to have to move the alternator over a little bit. Let me see. I'm going to try and move it over this way a little bit and see if I can get, enough where I can just, put the piece that I cut off back in. And that way I'll do that. That way I'll have enough airflow. But right now, there's no way I can make the airflow work. This is one of the things that happens. All right, let's see if I can do that now. Well, as we fade back in. Oh, God. All right, command decision. I got to redo this mount. I'm not taking everything off. I'm going to do that later. All I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this off. I'm going to tack it to here, then just do a light tack on the front. I'm going to pull this off, cut these off, clean this all up, and put this back down just to tack it. I'll put this stuff all back on, so we'll just get on to cutting off the bottom of this, cutting off the bottom, or cutting off this. That way it's going to go in there like that. So, well, like this. Don't know yet, but. This is what happens when you experiment, All right, well, it's easy enough to take these things off. Well, let me go cut this off right here. Cut the welds off, clean it up, put it back on, just tack it right to it, I mean, we're going to have to redo it. I'll probably just tack the front just to have it stationary because I have to have the intercooler, everything back off so I can reset everything so it's exactly flat so the belt does not fall off. So, well, that's what you get for being a hillbilly. Just have to keep working at it. So, there we go. All right, let me figure out where I'm going to put the throttle body. More things. Now that we have the initial part of the manifold pretty much set what we're going to have. Yeah, me screwing up this and me screwing up the alternator. It is what it is. We now have the next design parameter that we have to really consider. What are we looking for? I put the water jacket manifold back on. So this is the outlet for the top of the head, goes into the radiator. And then we have the bottom where the thermostat is, right here. So we have to have basically a clear shot in order to get the clamps off. That's kind of a big thing for me. Now, looking at this is the piece I took off. I put the throttle body back on. We also need one more thing. Remember what I said? I wanted to have this be able to go another, basically double the size in the radiator, another 1.5 inches, 2 inches. And it'll barely do it from there. If I use this throttle body like this, there's no way to do it. And so I sat there and looked at it going, all right, what am I going to try? What am I going to try? Well, I'm going to try it like this. What it is if I can sit there and hold it like that, I got just 1.5 inches clearance if I put it right here and right here. and face it right down, I have just 1.5 inch clearance to about 2 inches of clearance to bring this to double the size. It's kind of, boy, is it going to be close. But it's there, you know? So this is kind of the way it's going to look like. This is the thinnest section I can do. And I can also, it also have, you know, I can keep the idle air control valve still here. You know, throttle, everything is here. I can use, you know, the throttle cable right here. I can run it underneath. I got plenty of throttle cable. I can get down there, you know. Depending on how I do it and where I do it, when I'm thinking about the throttle cable, you know, when it comes down here, I might have a pivoting arm or a small, like, pulley to bring the thing up and down, you know, for when the thing goes up and down. Don't know yet. That's the least of my problems. The most of my problems is this, and I'm going to try and keep the air intake temperature sensor there, you know, and it'll still be in the airstream very well. We have, I mean, right now, as looking at it, going, all right, if you're looking at it like this, I want it down, facing down towards the bottom of the intercooler. So I have to cut this pretty much right here. That way I can mold it onto the bottom right there, you know. It's going to be tight. It's going to be real tight, but let's, let me, first thing is, I'm going to cut this right there, like that. And then I'm going to see about mating it up to this and trying to cut the manifold. But let me, you know, we got to first cut that to see exactly how it's going to work, you know. But we're reducing weight. Okay. Well, no better time than present. Let me just do it. It's going to be 2 cuts, 1 slice down here, 1 slice down here. We'll pull this off, and I think we'll be good. Well, that's got to be the final position right there. It's missing everything. Gives us the clearance for an extra little bit of radiator. At the very worst, we'd have to move this thing out a little bit, but that's nothing. It's easily movable. And I have to, well, take the flap wheel and clean this up. What I did was I basically just fish mouthed everything and just went down millimeters at a time. That's it. That's all I did.
So my whole goal right now is to get this in. I am going to clean that up with the flap wheel. I'll bring the welder over and I will tack it in. And then we can bring it over to the bench and weld the thing up securely. Whew. A lot of work. Well, we'll see what happens. Who knows? Maybe it'll all break apart. Who knows? Now's a moment of truth. Big thing is, I just give it a rough cleanup. You know, I have to go over it with a stainless steel brush and all this other stuff. I just give it a quick flap wheel brush because I'm not looking for it to hold. I am looking for it just to stay steady. And I'm going to bring it up because seeing how this is, I'm just going to try and make it as flat and as equal as possible, and just try and tack this in with the TIG welder. That's it. Whether or not it's going to really do a good job, it's not, because the thing is, I'm not going to use filler rod. I just want it to flow in just for it to be stationary. I got the bolts tight. I have the throttle body on. I have to make sure everything is clearing. And I got to hold it with one hand like this and use the TIG with the other hand. It's like, all right, you asked for it. I don't know if it's going to hold, but I think it should. You know, I'm looking at everything right here. It's like, okay, well, I should have plenty of space to fill it in, and no problem. You know. Then I'll take the manifold off, take this all off. Hopefully, it won't move, and clean it better and weld it better. You know. So let me leap into action. Well, I had to come back with the rod just to put the tack in there. The main thing is that the tacks I was trying to bleed through, it wouldn't do it. Well, I mean, it did it. It did it enough so I could hold the thing right there, and then I came back with a rod and tacked it a little bit. Now I'm going to pull it off. I'm going to bring it over the bench and see what I got, you know? And then I'm going to take the grinder and start grinding and see what we end up with. Here's the manifold on. As you can see, like that, this is the position where it's going to be. When I had this off and I was fitting this portion to this portion of the manifold, this right here was flat on the bottom. Now that I basically turned this to be most optimal for the hose, what happened was we have a gap here, which we didn't have when I was setting everything up, and we have gaps over here, which I didn't have when I was setting everything up. That is the reason why you have to bolt everything together. And seeing how I can't see any of this, it's, you know what, we're just going to run with what we got. That's the biggest thing. I have to pull this off so the heat doesn't affect it, and weld up this. I'm going to use a lot of filler rod, but I'll weld that up and weld up the top portion. What that will do, that'll give me enough stability for me to make a slice and cut and bend this down. Use like a half width slice in here to bend it down in order to contact this part of the manifold. Then weld those sections up, and then we can move on to the other side and start piecing that in all together. But we need this section right here welded, cleaned, welded, and the top section, with all these Grand Canyons, basically welded in like that, because this is the one I use a small little dab of filler rod, and actually it came out pretty nice. This one, nope, not at all. This one, nope, not at all. But this is not a welding channel. This is someone building a piece of shit kit car. So let's let me clean this up a little bit. Then I'll get my gear on and at least try and weld some of it up and see what happens, you know. What's the worst that can happen, you know? I have to re-weld it. Big deal. All right, let me get stuff on. Well, I had to let the purge go down. It doesn't look that bad. I mean, you can definitely tell I haven't welded aluminum in about 2 years, or a year and a half or something like that. But it's not bad. I mean, consider. Now, I got a lot of work ahead of me, closing this off, putting those other things back on. I got a ton of work. But it gives me a stable base section to where I can start cutting this, pounding it down, cleaning it, getting that thing worked up. This right down here is really iffy, so I have to grind it back out because this is where I first started. Yep, okay, first started glob, 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 glob. Getting better, better, better. That's what happens when you don't weld aluminum all the time. Oh, God. All right. I got to think about how I'm going to cut this. I'm going to let that cool off. It is kind of late at night, so I'm going to go up, and we'll see you back here in the morning, pretty much. You know, for you, it's just going to be a fade. All right, see you in a second. Now we got to think about how we're going to set this thing down. So where am I going to cut? I think I'm going to cut right there. Cut it straight down this way and put a relief cut right there and right there. So it'll fold down. It's about that's the best thing I can think of. All right, got it roughly welded in. Best job? No, not really, but it's there. I built up this area right here a lot. The reason is, take a look inside here. Let me grab that flashlight. There is the tube that I got to cut out. And you can see right in back of it, that ridge of metal. I got to grind that down all the way to the edge so it actually is a nice even, how can I put this? A nice even flow so it doesn't create as much disturbance. It's more for aesthetics probably, but I just want to clean that all down along with the other side. And this is the reason why I built this up, is just in case if it was such a thin weld inside there and I go through, I got to re-weld it. I don't want to do that. So let me go put this in the vise. I'm going to take the Sawzall, cut this line and this line right here. Then I'm going to take the grinder and smooth that thing down, you know, all the stuff. I'm going to try and smooth everything down so I can get back onto building a plate for here and back onto building a plate for right there, because I got to cut this small section off, build out a plate, and then go straight down. So just get rid of all this stuff right here, you know. And then when I have the plate right there, you know, it's going to fasten in to the side. I can grind that and then put a top plate on this. At least that's what my intention is. And this little nub right down there I got to grind off also. So that's pretty much it. Let's just stop talking about it and just get doing it. There we go. It's pretty much smoothed off like there. Now we got to get that inner piece that I kind of cut, and then we can go over to the other side. all the holes, all the cast nubs and all that stuff that I cut off, it's now smoothed down. Will it do anything for performance? Yeah, probably not. But the whole thing is, it makes me feel better. And everything else is smoothed out in the manifold. Now I have to go back. I got to weld up all the holes, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna. Hear that? I'm not sure if I'm gonna weld a plate knot or build a plate for right here. I'm not really sure yet, and that's pretty much it. You know, and I have to clean out some of the weld that's in here, but that can be done down the road with my extended ones, and I want it really nice. So we'll just wait and do that later. Here we go. I had to really clean this one off because I had to bake the heat in it. As you can see, there was so much trash pulling out, and same thing. But on these things, not bad. I just cleaned them right up, no problem. What I got to do is I'm going to take off this extra metal right here and make it just a triangle plate to go inside there. Weld it in. Make another triangle plate right here and weld it in. Then we'll do the one on the back, and I think we're going to be good. We can at least stick it in there, and then if we decide to clean it up, we'll decide to clean it up. This one, I had to bake it in pretty well too, and I also cleaned it off on the inside die grinder. So let me grab the cutter, and we're going to slice this straight down like this to get this trash off. And that's that way we can build a plate that'll go right in here. You shouldn't use these wheels. They're not meant for aluminum. So this is just the fastest thing I can do right now. It's the main thing. Let me pop a thing in there and get this thing done. Okay, I'm going to let this cool down a little second. I'm going to show you why I built this up here. Let me bring the camera down here in just a second. Here's the back plate all welded. Here's this is pretty much all welded. Not, is it the greatest weld? No, absolutely not. You know, so I'm going to need a lot of finishing. But I want to explain something here. See this? I dumped tons of rod into here, you know, to build it all up. The reason why is when I use the die grinder, I chopped this and I smoothed it as far in as I felt comfortable with. And the reason why is this thing had a ridge out to here. I got rid of that so it would flow into this cylinder better, and just hog everything out and just create less disruption. You know, is it gonna work? You know, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I figured I'll just put, you know, before I put this plate on, I'd show you what I did. And now I'm just going to put the plate on there and just start welding up the rest of this, and we'll put this back on the car and see what we got. I think it's looking pretty decent to me, but I'm a hillbilly. What do I know? I'm not a welder, but hey, at least it gets it done. So let me put the other plate on here, and we will get this thing all welded. Well, it's kind of done. Woo! Boy, that thing's bloody hot. Let me cool it down, we'll throw it on the car and we'll see what it looks like. Oh, one last thing. Before you put everything back together again, I do this for everything, I just probably don't show it, is that I try and clean every single thread with a tap. I just run it down and run it back because the bolts were sitting in there for, what, 30 years or something like that, and you get dissimilar metal oxidation. I just make sure all the bolts are clean, all the threads are clean. I just oil up the cap screws and put them back in. Now let's just put this back on right here. And we will put this all back together again and see what it looks like. Actually, can't wait.